A lot of investors are worried about the pervasive economy-wide impacts of a potential Evergrande default. For that reason, they're avoiding Chinese stocks like Alibaba, Tencent, JD.com, and Baidu to the point where they all could potentially be very, very undervalued. In part 1 of this series, I discussed if Evergrande can collapse. I personally believe that they can without government intervention. That's why in this video, we're going to dive into what the Chinese government has done so far and what they can do going forward to intervene in this crisis. You're watching More Money, let's get it. So, as a quick recap, the real risk being discussed here is that while it's normal and expected that many Chinese citizens have put their savings into new homes in which they live in, there are those that have also bought homes and apartments as investments without any intention of ever living them or renting them out. The property developer Evergrande has pre-sold more than 1 million apartments that remain unfinished. Evergrande's cash crunch has caused them to stop paying some Chinese businesses that were contracted in the development of the pre-sold properties. These would include makers of paint, cable, concrete, elevators, and construction companies. Lawsuits have been filed against Evergrande. So, construction at many sites has been suspended, and if those units aren't completed, many households could suffer painful losses, which of course could potentially collapse the Chinese housing market. So what exactly is the Chinese government going to do to ensure that the Chinese property market does not collapse from a potential Evergrande default? Well, it looks like a multifaceted approach is being taken. In places where the projects weren't that far along, local governments have urged Evergrande to cancel the work entirely and refund the home buyers. For example, in the Zhejiang province, a county-level government made Evergrande pay back over 50 million won, or around 7.8 million, in full refunds to more than 200 owners of unbuilt homes, according to a government release. Local authorities have then been speaking with other developers to see if they want to take over the land and the projects. Now, that seems like an easier issue to solve, but what about the homes that are built and available for sale? I did mention in the previous video that the number of completed and available homes that are for sale have been increasing, which is a bit of a concern for housing prices when 1 million more homes need to be built. It's not yet clear what's going to be happening with these, but as an indication, it's looking like they may potentially be being sold off at a discount. And also, I'm sure you're seeing in the headlines, anything that Evergrande can sell is being sold off. For example, in September, China's financial regulator urged Evergrande to sell a nearly 20% stake in Zhejiang Bank Co., a state-owned enterprise, according to a person familiar with the issue. And that deal ended up happening. Overall, it looks like so far Chinese authorities are publicly stating that they won't bail out Evergrande or inject money into the company, which would undermine their goal of showing that no private firms are too big to fail in China. But note that I still personally believe that intervention will be necessary, as buyers could potentially freeze in this uncertain market in the hopes of seeking better pricing for new homes. And I don't think injecting money into the company is the only way to shore up the systemic risk here either, as local governments have been extending subsidies to home buyers and acting to prevent prices from declining. Remember guys, more than half of local government's revenue relies on the sale of land leases, and so they are absolutely encouraged to make sure that the land lease values don't decline. Despite that, home sales have fallen sharply recently, as buyers have become unnerved about the ability of many developers to stay afloat. Why pre-purchase a home if you don't know if the builder can complete it? So as the Evergrande situation plays out, we're seeing some cracks, but right now things are a little steady. So it's something that we're going to have to continue watching out for. But now back to what I originally said. With falling home sales, we now have a larger issue creeping up. That is, city governments in China have every incentive to support ever-rising home prices. This is because land lease sales account for approximately half of local government fiscal revenue. So a reduction in land lease sales means that local governments can in fact have a revenue issue. They might have to cut programs. A number of smaller cities are so desperate to keep prices trending up that they're forcing rural residents to sell their village homes and move into more expensive urban high-rise housing blocks. In other words, guys, you're seeing that they're manufacturing demand. So how do you address this challenge? The solution, of course, is a property tax, but it's not that easy to implement. In the final part of this 3-part series, I'm going to investigate whether or not a property tax can be implemented in China. Once that video is released, the link for it will show up right here. Until then, check out part 1 of the series, where I dive into the issues that make the Evergrande situation so scary and potentially pervasive to the Chinese property market. You can get to that video right here. And of course, if you're new to the channel, I really hope that I earned your subscription today. Also guys, please don't forget to smash that like button. It really helps YouTube know that this channel provides valuable content, and thus they'll share it with more viewers. Thank you very much guys, and I'll see you later.